Let's talk about interviewing. There are a handful of people who actually enjoy interviewing, and if you're one of them, that's great. But for the rest of us, myself included, interviewing can be a little bit of a scary experience. So what can we do to make that a bit easier? Well, the first thing is to be prepared ahead of time. For example, what do you know about the company? They might ask you, what do you know about us? What do you know about the job? Do you remember the job description? Take a look at it again. What did you tell them when you applied? Review your resume so you know exactly what it was that you told them you can do so that you can discuss that in the interview. The next thing to think about is, what am I going to wear? Have your clothes ready the day ahead. And consider dressing maybe one step above the type of work you'd be doing. So if I can dress in t-shirt and jeans on the job, maybe I'll wear a button-down shirt and maybe a clean pressed pair of jeans or a pair of khakis. I want to make sure that I don't have distracting jewelry. I want to make sure that I don't have cologne or aftershave or perfume. Some people say do it lightly. I say don't do it at all. There are too many allergies out there. There are too many people who dislike whatever your favorite scent is, so put that aside as you're getting ready for the interview. Make sure you have extra copies of your resume available. You never know when you walk into a room how many people might be there, so you might need some extra copies. Prepare for the questions you might be asked. For example, tell me about yourself. That's often the most frightening one you'll be asked, and often the first thing they ask when you walk in the room. So think about what that really means. It doesn't mean how many kids you have or how many grandkids, or do you like gardening or skiing or golf or basketball. What they're really asking is, tell me about yourself professionally. Tell me about yourself as the person who I want to hire. Tell me about yourself as it pertains to this job. So that's what we should be prepared for with that question. But think about other things as well. They might ask, what are your greatest strengths? What's your greatest weakness? They may ask, tell me about a time when you had a difficult coworker or a difficult supervisor or a difficult customer. Tell me about a time when you failed on a job. Tell me about some of your greatest successes. All of those standard questions, you should be prepared for those. And it's easy to find a list of those online. So just find the top 10 questions that are asked in interviews and be prepared for those. Most importantly, you should have a few stories that you plan to tell in just about every interview you have that show what some of your skills are, how you've used them, how you helped somebody, how you solved a problem. If you've practiced those stories, then when the time comes, you'll know it and you can tell them. Interviewers remember stories. In fact, there are 2 tips I want everybody to keep in mind. First, people hire people they like. Second, people remember stories. So let's imagine you're asked, tell me about your greatest strengths. And I say, I'm punctual, I get along well with people, and I'm extremely well organized. That's great. They might remember that, they might not. But if I say, I'm punctual, I get along extremely well with people, and I'm very well organized. For example, at my last position, I inherited a workroom that was in chaos. Things were all over the place. I couldn't find anything I needed, but within 3 days I had that place organized, and all of us could find what we were looking for. They're going to remember that story. That's something that will stick with them. So you should have a few of those stories ready to tell. And one more thing, make sure you know how to get there. How far is it? How long does it take? Maybe take a trial run, see if there are any train tracks between you and the workplace, so that you know when you get there, you'll be able to arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. And now it's the day of the interview. You're ready, you're dressed, no cologne. You have the extra copies of your resume. You arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. The first thing to remember is that everybody you meet is a decision maker. That person you see in the parking lot might be the CEO. The person who greets you at the front desk, that receptionist, might be asked at the end of the interview, how did this candidate treat you? Were they friendly? Did they smile? Did they thank you? So treat everyone as a decision maker. When you meet the person you're going to interview with, I have always said in the past, give a good firm handshake. Make sure you get right in there and you give them a firm handshake and they know that you're confident. But things are a little bit different now. Right now, in 2020, we're concerned about the COVID-19 virus. And so we're told frequently, don't shake hands. So what do? Well, follow the lead of the person who's interviewing you. If they put their hand out and you're comfortable, I still think it's a good idea to shake hands. But if you're not comfortable, and certainly if they don't put their hand out, we won't do that right now. Maybe there's a fist bump, maybe there's an elbow bump, maybe there's a Vulcan greeting, maybe you just say hello. But follow the lead of that employer. I think that's your best bet. Let them sit down first. Let them indicate where they want you to sit. If there's more than one person in the interview, make sure that you're sharing space with all of them. That when they ask you questions, even if person A asks you the question, you make eye contact with persons B and C. You'll probably be nervous. Most of us are. That's okay. A lot of people will tell you, don't fidget. Don't touch your hair or your face. Of course, those are great pieces of advice, but I've never known anybody who said, I won't hire this person because they're nervous. Except in instances of salespeople or public speakers or things like that. And in those cases, you do want to make sure that all of those fidgety habits are gone. When you're nearing the end of the interview, often they'll ask if you have any questions for them. That's something else you should have prepared. 4 or 5 questions is plenty. A dozen is too many. No questions is too few. They want to know that you're interested enough in the job that you will actually talk to them about the job and ask questions. Typical questions might be, can you tell me why this position is open right now? Or what does a typical day look like? Or maybe, how do you measure success on this job? Questions that you don't want to ask at this point are, what's the salary? What are the benefits? That sort of thing. One of the final questions might be, what's the next step in this process? What can I do next? The final 2 things I would recommend: first, ask for a business card. Second, ask for a tour. It might be a manufacturing plant, it might be a school, it might be a hospital, it might be an office building, but this gives you a great chance to observe what the environment is like. Remember, they're not just interviewing you, you're interviewing them as well, and this gives you a chance to see where you'll be working. It gives you a chance to connect with somebody. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, tell me a little bit about what I'm seeing there. There are lots of things you can do on a tour, including letting them know you're interested and finding more information for yourself. They might say no, and that's okay, but it's really nice to show your interest. The first thing you do when you get home is you send a thank you note. It can be by snail mail, it can be by email, however you'd like to communicate with this person. That's why you have the business card. Now you know who to send it to. You're thinking maybe a thank you note? I've never done that. Why do people do thank you notes? Well, about 85% of employers, according to surveys, really appreciate a thank you note after an interview. And about 20% of people actually send them. So you do the math. This is how you can set yourself apart just one more time. Send that thank you note. Let them know how much you appreciated their time. Let them know how much more interested you are in the job. Now, it doesn't have to be lengthy, but that's the final thing that you can do after an interview to set yourself apart.